Good morning, Bitcoins. My name is Thomas Hunt, and this is Proof of Work. Proof of Work is a show about the people behind Bitcoin and how they got here. Today we're joined by Jose from Crown Project. How's it going, Jose?
Hey man, how are you doing?
Having a good time in Berlin?
Awesome. The weather is awesome. The people are awesome. The venue, the content, everything.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yes, it is.
Yep, so we're going to go ahead and get started with everyone's favorite and most familiar question.
Yeah.
What was your first computer?
Yeah. Well, there was a 086
Nice.
at
very
home
early, yeah.
at some point. My father was using that, and then we actually had a 486,
Nice,
which
fast.
my brother and me could use.
Yeah, yeah.
So we were experimenting with that one. Yeah, it had the floppies.
Nice.
And yeah, you could load games on it. It was like 8 floppy disks or 10 floppy disks,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
We were playing SimCity on that.
Excellent. I love SimCity. Back in
SimCity,
day,
the first version, like the original first SimCity version.
What we used to do is we would let it run overnight so that we would get more money.
Exactly.
So we'd set the budget way down, whatever it was, everything would get wrecked, and then the next morning you'd have more money so you could build what you wanted to build.
Sounds familiar, right?
Yeah, it's right there. Hackers figuring these games out.
Yes.
So that's great. You start out playing games. Where did you live at the time?
That time I was living in a really distant, small Spanish village.
Yeah.
Yes. At the 086, we were living in Barcelona, but then when we had the 486, we were actually living far out in the landside. So it was a really nice time because you had a different relationship to everything around you, because you
Did
didn't
a
have
lot of people have computers, or was
No,
it pretty
not really.
rare?
We were like one of the few ones who had them, and the kids would come over. We would play.
Yeah.
Like there was 1 or 2 computers in the whole village. There was
Sure,
another
sure.
guy having one.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the early times, right? We had
Absolutely.
28K modems.
Nice.
Yes.
It's good times. So did you stick with computers then? Did you keep learning about them? Or?
Yeah, I always kept learning about them, but it was more a self-learning process. Just start playing around with the stuff, experimenting. And I didn't really have a technical education in that sense.
Yeah. So did you go on to work in computers or to study them at college or anything like that? Or did you move towards a different discipline?
No, well, I've studied journalism. I studied journalism, and then I studied media science too.
Nice.
So I was going more into the theoretical stuff on media and on machines and technology, more like philosophy stuff, trying to figure out what the relationship of all this stuff is, and going pretty deep into some theoretical stuff. Yeah,
Nice.
That was what I've been doing instead of being up to the daily business, writing articles and news. So I dived into that, and it always had a relationship with actually practicing, and using computers, and in this sense also using the blockchain, not just, having businesses on it or, trying to figure out how to live off it, but really using it for exchange of value and as a way of living, as a way of living.
Computers really changed journalism. I remember when I was in college, we were just barely able to upload a video to our college newspaper website.
Yeah.
And it was a very big deal. We had a video that night of the college election. I edited it, I put it together, we put it out. We had a video up before the major newspaper.
Yeah,
on our website.
that was a huge milestone. I remember when you could use FTP and upload content, and suddenly you were a content producer.
Yeah.
This was unthinkable in the analog domain. You could do fanzines, of course. You could do some kind of printed stuff,
things,
but the cost,
photocopiers,
cost, and the result you would get from it, the spread you would get from it, was really bad. And suddenly, with all these digital things, you have a really low cost, and you can become a content producer.
Absolutely, you can make articles, photos, videos, anything.
Exactly.
It was open to you.
Yes. That was a huge milestone, and I also learned HTML,
Nice.
basic stuff,
Excellent.
and to be able to have this content online. Right?
It was necessary at the time. There wasn't Blogger, there wasn't these kind of things. Like if you wanted to have a web page, you learned how to write it yourself, and then you could put anything you wanted up there. There's no editor, there's no boss.
Yeah, and already back then, the amount of information and knowledge you had online all the scripts, all the code that you could copy, paste, remix. It was amazing because there was so much available. Maybe there was even more available than now. I have the feeling. I don't know.
It seemed like it was earlier. It was more inviting to people. I was talking to somebody just this morning, and he said that he had copied code out of a magazine and written the program from that, and that by typing the code, he kind of learned about the code, and he learned how to fix syntax errors where he'd made mistakes. And I don't think kids now have anything like that.
Exactly. It's like when you learn how to read, you're also encoding all these letters and words. So it's the same with the code. You can also learn it by reading it and by spending time with it.
Yeah. So you got a little bit of code, you're doing HTML, and you're doing journalism. How did you learn about Bitcoin?
Well, I have an Italian friend, and he started telling me about Ethereum mainly and Monero back in the early days. He was on the right path. And he was really interested in technology, and he knew how to discern the technologically good projects.
Avoid the ICOs.
Yeah, and he brought me into this, and I saw huge potential because I've always been really interested in networks, in activist networks, in social networks, and in self-organization processes, in communities. It's something really interesting. So when you add a layer of value on it, it's a blast.
Well, and so many of those things, you need money to run a journalist organization, you need to pay people, you need a system, and then suddenly we had Bitcoin, where even if somebody's making a graphic for you on the other side of the world, like the Philippines, you send them $100, they send you the graphic, it worked out.
Exactly.
It's a good deal.
Exactly. Definitely, man. We also have a Cuban community with us, and we can send them some crown easily when they do some graphic.
It's amazing to have that option.
It's perfect. It's really nice. It's really nice to see.
So what are you working on right now?
Well, I'm working on Crown right now.
Okay.
I've been active in the community for quite a while, almost 2 years, and I started off there just out of pure interest, let's say, and I was just curious. And I also researched blockchains theoretically at university, and I wanted to approach an open project to see how it works, how governance works, how these self-organization processes work. And suddenly I was in the middle of it, I was just taking
amazing.
part.
A lot of times the smaller and newer projects, it's a lot easier to get started on.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
Pretty soon you have some responsibilities, and you have lots of friends, and you're busy on your project.
Exactly. Suddenly you're busy, you're traveling, you're meeting new people, and it's been a really nice time, I have to say.
Nice. So what kind of things does Crown do? What are you guys working on?
Well, we've been working on several things. We released new consensus mechanism a month ago, and now we're about to release NFTs on the testnet and put some pilot organizations on it, some pilot projects to see how it's working out and how secure it is, etc.
So what would those organizations do? Would they fundraise through Crown, or what kind of activities would they do?
Crown is an open infrastructure, so these organizations, what we're trying to figure out is how they can leverage that technology we're building. The aim of Crown is to become a platform that anyone can use to use the tools that blockchain provides in an easy way. And we've wanted to implement registry APIs for a very, very long time. Even in the 2016 papers, 2015 papers, this is outlined. But of course, everything has evolved really fast. And then the NFTs from Ethereum came along, and you had other developments in market that you can't ignore. So what we did is we studied the Ethereum NFTs and adapted them in order to make them possible on a Bitcoin core-based blockchain.
Nice.
And they will be, instead of being like smart contracts, coded in Solidity, where you have these concrete programming languages, they're just API calls and API comments, right, that you can execute on Crown Core.
What's a NFT stand for?
NFT stands for non-fungible token, and it is not the classical token that is fungible, that you can exchange one-to-one. Like 1 Bitcoin will be equal to 1 Bitcoin in value. It is rather a unique asset that is either digital or physical, and is represented there with a unique hash on the blockchain in order to prove its existence, authenticity, or ownership through connecting it, for example, to private key of the owner.
So what would you use the NFTs for? Would you use them to buy things, or what is it about?
Well, there is so many use cases that you can integrate with NFTs, and that is our goal, that people can easily integrate blockchain into their businesses, whatever they're doing. It could be car registry, it could be watch registry, it could be logistics. It can also be archives, or let's say databases that you want proof of and that you're delegating to people, because it allows for much more information to be stored than in a classical OP return or operational code of Bitcoin. It allows for metadata that you can point to in the NFT itself.
Nice.
So you can call it a bit more abstract. So to say, you can call it a decentralized registry, decentralized permissionless registry of any asset that you can represent digitally.
Nice. It's like comic books and gold and anything?
Exactly. If you can show uniqueness of this gold physically, you can integrate that uniqueness also on chain digitally, right? And you can hash this uniqueness so that when you're confronted with the actual thing, you can prove that it's the true valid one, because of this uniqueness. It could be a scratch, it could be its weight and form and stamp, etc. Unique properties. So it's about linking physically given unique properties to the blockchain.
That's interesting. Where can people learn more about Crown?
You can visit crown.tech. That's our main site. And there you will find a lot of resources. You can be linked to our social media. We have really open communication channels. It's overall a really open project that is always welcoming people who want to participate, who want to learn, who want to contribute in many different ways, be it graphics, be it communications, be it development, ideas, brainstorming. So we're having a lot of fun building this infrastructure, and we invite you to come along. Crown.tech is a good starting point. Join our Telegram, join our Discord, follow us on Twitter, all that. You're very welcome to do that.
Where can people follow you on Twitter?
Twitter is Crown Platform, same for all the major social media. Crown Platform, you will find us there.
All right, great. Thanks so much, Jose.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.